All right, let's go to the next one. Okay, this is more of a broad one. Again, either one of you can take a stab at it. We've talked about it in different ways, but it's always important to bring up. So, question is, how do we fix and stop funding cartels indirectly in the states, and how do we stop people from and how do we stop people using the border as a political talking point and get back to just keeping the border secure and Americans safe?
I'll start with that real quick. One, I think what we do really well is once we kind of find the financial institute that holds their money, we shut that down. I think that messes with a lot of things. So that's a big one. There's a lot of financial institutes that are in support of that. And so that's one. There's also a lot of financial institutes that are crooked as well. So, but the other side of it, what was the second part of the question was, oh, the border. Man, things like this, I believe educating people on the border, the immigration laws, and everything that goes down on the border with clear, concise journalism is the best thing we can do because we have way too much misinformation. And that is the biggest problem. Misinformation is used for propaganda, misinformation is used for political narratives, and that has been causing a lot of division in this subject. I think we have to get to a point where we all agree that defending our borders or protecting our borders is very important for the sustainability of America, right? But for some reason, there's a lot of people in this country that don't see it that way. And so once we can get on the same page with that conversation, we can explain why we do what we do in protecting our borders and why we hopefully to sustain American beliefs and cultures for a very long time. But until then, we have a lot of people that are fighting because of these misinformation campaigns, and that is causing so much division. Even like we see today, a lot of the writing that's happening as much as it might be a cultural belief. There's a lot of misinformation on both sides that are happening, and it just creates so much division.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. What was the first part of that question again? Because I had something to say about that.
So the first part was, how do we fix and stop funding cartels indirectly in the states, and how do we stop people from using the border as a political talking point can and get back to just keeping the border secure and Americans safe?
I think Vince covered the second part of that about, depoliticizing the border, whatever, really well. And that's just like a huge thing to tackle. But in terms of the financial pipelines, I talk about this a lot. And I think, yeah, sure, like Vince said, there is somewhat of a crackdown on the dirty financial institutions that are helping to funnel and launder this money. But I think that needs to be taken a step further, which, I also go back and forth with because I want to say, they need to crack down on the remittance apps and they need to crack down on the crypto. But at the same time, there are a lot of individuals who are not in organized crime who sort of rely on the remittance apps and on the crypto for this sort of decentralized way of banking, or just, I don't know, it becomes like a moral thing at that point. But if it means that that's what needs to be done in order to crack down and shut off the cartel's financial pipelines, it may be worth it. And I truly believe that a main part in ending and tackling the cartels is targeting the financial pipelines. So, and there's a lot of ways to do that, whether it's the financial institutions, the remittance apps, or the crypto, but it's very complicated.
Yeah, the crypto is a
Agreed.
very complicated one.
It is very complicated, and a great segue into our next question from one of our audience members on YouTube. Where's all where's the questions on banking and laundering? So here we go. Let's do that. All of the money needs to be normalized. How is it done? Are US banks involved? Crypto? Is it true Bitcoin is narco related with large foundational investments?
Yes, great question. We just had a guest on, and I'm sure you might have seen it or you will be seeing it. But crypto is a big one that the cartels are using. Obviously, it's harder to track. The other side of it is money laundering. We did a whole episode on the ranch that did the ghost cattles and money laundering. So that bank, Robo Bank, we mentioned in there, has been sued multiple times for working with and helping to launder money from the cartels. And so, yeah, American banks are involved in it. American banks are getting caught doing it as well. And I'm sure there's going to be hundreds more that there's under the radar currently at the moment. But the big thing is yeah, there's got to be money laundering involved in some capacity. The crude oil is another one that is doing money laundering. So there's a lot of different areas where they're laundering their money that they have to. And it is a biggest part of the conversation that we as a team have been trying to find more experts to kind of break that down for us.
Yeah, so the crude oil is a great example of this because basically CJNG operatives were selling the stolen crude oil to independent American oil and gas companies. And these guys were funneling money, which was ended up being clean money, directly into the cartel's bank accounts and their financial institutions, which completely allows them to take this money and use it for whatever, and none of it is flagged. This is the greatest source of power for the cartels, because without money, there's no manpower. Without men, it just goes on and on. And so the problem is, though, and I mentioned this time and time again, and I do catch heat for it, but I think that there needs to be a crackdown on the American side of the border to ensure that these guys can't take advantage of U.S. loopholes to make this money clean.
I agree 100%.
Pivoting to the next question from another YouTube audience member. It says, in recent years, we've seen military freefall added to SOG's capabilities. If you were king of the Border Patrol for a day, what capability or even new specialized unit would you want to see added to the agency, and why?
That's a good. I want Kat. I'm not sure if you know anything of this. So Special Operations Group.
This is yours.
I know, but I'm interested in you real quick. So Special Operations Group is the high level special operations team for the Border Patrol. They're the ones who recently caught the escaped sheriff who was running from law enforcement. They do all kinds of things. They have a capability right now of free fall, what it's mentioning, which they can just jump from high elevation undetected into to be able to do an operation somewhere in the middle of nowhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's asking, what other capabilities would you like to see for the Border Patrol if you were king for the day? Is that any kind of thought to you, someone who's more of a civilian journalist? Is there some kind of capability that you think would assist in the efforts of protecting our border or stopping the cartel?